Welcome to this episode of the Purpose episode of the Extra Time podcast. We're joined today with some special guests. We have Cavin Johnson and Jesse Donn. We'll let them introduce themselves. And once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Henry Nzuzi. Welcome and enjoy the episode. So, gents, Mr. Cavin Johnson, please, could you just introduce us to yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself and how would you describe yourself?
Cavin Johnson, nice to be on your show.
Thank you, Coach.
Football coach. I don't know if I should tell you where I've coached. I'm sure you know that. So for me, nice to be on your show, and also nice to be able to talk about what you want to know, how we can go forward, and it's a big topic.
Yeah.
That you have, and hopefully be able to cover it.
Yeah,
most of it in a proper and good way.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Mr. Jesse Donn.
Mr. Jesse Donn. I am a former football player. Pretty short-lived career in regards to how long I thought it was going to last. I didn't really see this coming, and it's really fitting. So thank you for having me on the podcast. That you guys are talking about identity and transitions and what that looks like, because I've been in the thick of that. So I'm really hoping that, not that by any means do I have any of the solutions to some of the problems and some of the difficulties, but I know that I've had to walk through it, so hopefully some wisdom in it. I played professional football for around 7 years, 2 years in the NFD and then 5 years for SuperSport in the PSL. Had the privilege of traveling, being part of Bafana squads that qualified for AFCON, never actually got to play. Which was always a dream of mine, and who knows, in the future may still be a part of the future, who knows. So a football player who now has had to make the transition out of football. Like I said, didn't see it coming, but I've also realized that I'm passionate about many other things than just football, as much as it's been difficult. It's been an interesting journey, and I guess we'll unpack some of that, but yeah, that's me.
Great. So, Coach, you didn't mention the teams you've coached, so I'll do that for you. Former coach of Platinum Stars, SuperSport United, assistant at Al Ali, and Kaizer Chiefs as well. So, just throughout your career, and I know you're also a youth coach at Ajax as well. Throughout your career and throughout your journey within it, how have you managed that battle or that idea of balancing life and your identity as a coach and as your identity as a father, as anything else, as a man? How's that been for you?
Shungo, it's been a long journey. And the journey all started because of growing up in a black and white area and then transforming into a democracy area. And that all stems from following the leader that we had then, which is Madiba. So, and then of course, marrying the right person.
Yeah.
And going through many different changes in having kids, father.
Yeah.
And starting off as a youth coach, being a father to many young players from different walks of life. And I think the one thing that adds or that gave me a little bit of edge over everybody else was that I was born in the street. And when you know what the street was like, when it was black and white, and the street was like changed into different colors, you have the insight,
perspective
into how we got many of the footballers to where they were.
Yeah.
So I was able to give a lot of feedback into that type of environment to the different players.
Yeah.
And when they came together and how they played together. And then at the same time also, I think I was probably one of the first coaches to have gone on an international coaching course. and one of the first coaches who got information on what coaching is all about and putting it together. And from there, I have to always give my mother credit, because she always said, and I learned this also from my travels, that when you go out, steal. Steal as much as you can, but not physically. She always told me, steal with your eyes, my boy. That they can never change. And that's something that I grew along, I depended on, and I always stole with my eyes. But along the way, my coaching became better and better, because I got to meet a lot of different players at a high level, and different coaches at a high level. I mean, if we say we spent time with Johan Cruyff,
Nice.
we spent time with Louis van Gaal.
Nice.
I spent many days with Pereira and Zagallo. So, and along that line, we have Ted Dimitru, we have guys that all grew up with me as coaching, Sam Mbata, Farouk Khan, Sinead Mauso. We were always fighting with each other as to what is the best form of development, what is the best form of when a player is at a certain age, what do we give him, what do we don't give him, how we expose him to international football, how we expose him to local football, and what do we give them as footballers along the way. And along the way, that comes a lot with how do you think they're going to be after football? How do you think they're going to be before football? How do you think they're going to be if they get injured? What do we have to do? And we always had all of that in a box and bump it off each other and understand how we're going to navigate this particular player. Because the bottom line is that we only got 60 million people in South Africa. And probably only, there could be less than 100,000 who play football. 200,000 who play football. And what is the permutation that happens in the end?
Yeah.
There's only 16 professional clubs. 16 times 40 players. It's about 300 players that play professional football. And out of that, only maybe 80 will play consistently, or less. It's just helping the teams get along. And you have to take that into consideration and then look beyond our shores. And you look at Nigeria, there's 120 million people there. So they're twice.
Yeah.
Look at Brazil. I think there's 170 million there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And why do they produce so many players, yet we have only 60 million? So we should be able to produce more or better quality players.
Coach, I think it takes us to our next question. What do you think is missing in the holistic approach in developing players in South Africa? Because obviously that's I think it's a big question mark. I think, Jesse, from you even being into that environment, what do you think is missing, or what can we add into the holistic development of young players in South Africa?
Yeah. Question, if you want to finish your thoughts first, or should I jump into it?
My thought is simple.
Yeah.
We need to unpack apartheid within sport.
Okay.
And unpack it in such a way that we can compete with the rugby guys. The rugby guys are 2-time world champions. What have they done different? Because the rugby has always been predominant in South Africa.
Yeah.
Whether it's democracy days or apartheid days, we always had the best rugby players in the world. We've always had one that stands out as David Beckham in the rugby world, or two.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yet in football, we don't have that. But we call ourselves a footballing nation.
Mm.
So what is wrong? And I think there's quite a bit of unpacking that we can do there.
Yeah, definitely.
In order to get to where we are.
Definitely.
Yeah. Immediately when you say that, I think of environments. I think within the rugby setting and the cricket setting, there's high performance environments which have been instilled, and a certain sense of mentality that has been instilled within those teams, within the younger teams. You look at the SA under-19 cricket team, they're very successful as well, and it all feeds in. So I think it's that thing of isolating an environment and creating a sort of environment that provides and is conducive for, performance in a way.
Yeah. I think it's a really layered question. I think a big part of it that we can't ignore, like Coach alluded to, is the fact that there is some political, demographic sort of impact that we can't ignore. I tend to shy away from that just because often it gets into a space that I don't fully understand because I didn't grow up in the era that Coach did.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to comment on how that. I can speak from my perspective, living in a generation where actually I don't ever feel like I was looked down on because I was white, or other people looked down on because they were black, and that's the generation I've grown up in. But I do obviously live in the consequences of a generation before.
Or the past, yeah.
I can't move away from the fact that, to what Coach was saying, we look at rugby, look at cricket, the school system, and I think particularly because of almost the time under the influence of, let's say, leaders in a school system versus in like an academy, which is more football related. So footballers, you go to school and you go to academies after school, and that's where you get your real training. If you're not playing in an academy, you're not going to go pro.
Yeah.
Whereas with rugby cricket, like, you get scholarships into a schooling system where you obviously end up boarding. And I think the time that you spend with people who are leaders, who have gone before you, who are like investing into you, is a lot more because you're living on campus. You're training every day. I guess in academies you're doing the same, but that time is limited to your 2-3 hour training session. Then you go home, and then what happens then, So I think culturally that affects the culture within football. I think structurally as well, and again, this is probably a topic that I don't have full context on. I should probably have more. But I think as a league, I think there are some structural changes that we could make. I get that there might be financial limitations, and even within that, it's a heated topic because the financial side of things, there might be people who are benefiting and others who aren't. But I think at clubs, I mean, on a very basic practical level, I think there needs to be people who are put in the clubs whose focus is on the holistic side. So I can't speak for clubs like Chiefs, Sundowns, Pirates. I've never been in those setups, but I can speak for the clubs I've been at. And there aren't really people, apart from people with good hearts, there aren't people who are employed to look after the psychological side of things, the nutrition side of things, these holistic elements that I think are some of the missing pieces. And then even just beyond that, things like family planning. I know Coach mentioned choosing the right partner to marry. I now married probably 13, 14 months, so a very newly wedded person. But
congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I can speak to the fact that I guess if I was going to now try and mentor players, I'd say the person you're choosing to marry is probably one of the most important decisions in your life, and they need to be aware of the sacrifice that they're going to have to pay for your career. And that's just a silly example, but it's something that's not spoken about. Players will say, I'm committed, I'm faithful, like she's the one.
True.
Cool, she could be the one, but does she know like what it entails? Like, for example, I got him married in, I think, the 28th of October, 2023. And between then and the end of year, and I was playing at SuperSport, which amazing club, great people, but for a couple of years haven't been on the same level as the Sundowns, the Chiefs, the Pirates. I mean, I know at the moment Chiefs aren't really performing to the best of their abilities, but let's say Sundowns or Pirates, even Esteli's coming up now. If you're at a Sundowns, it's regular for you to play like a couple times a week, SuperSport, not as much, but in the season that I was there, we were playing CAF, and they'd also moved our home games away from Joburg, so we were playing our home games in Polokwane. So from October, so the 60 days between October and the end of the year, I was away for like 32 days of the year. So in the first 2 months of marriage, half of that time I wasn't even there. And while my wife knew that was in part of it, in theory, she knew what she was signing up for. Like the practical walking out of that is super difficult. All of that to say, I'm getting a bit sidetracked, but I think there's bits and pieces and questions that need to be asked to players. And I think structurally within clubs, if people were put in places of permanent employment to ask those questions, I think players would be better set up to then think about those questions. You know, it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to have somebody actually walk you through it. And that's just a very practical level. I don't know about you, Coach, if you know of some of the clubs that you've worked with, are there people in those positions that are asking questions beyond football? They're asking about identity, personal development, asking about studies, asking about life after football. Because it's great to talk about it, and I think these podcasts are amazing. I think we need more of it.
But how do we insert it?
Until it's almost becomes integrated with a part of the culture in a club, and we were talking about cultures in clubs earlier, until it becomes a part of the culture, it's very difficult for players to actually adopt that culture, because it's, you know, it just becomes a taboo thing you talk about in podcasts. Like, I see this on social media, but when I come into my club, like, no one speaks about 100%. it. I feel out, you know? I don't know, but in your experience, have you had a different experience?
No. I think what we need to understand is that, again, because of the democracy that we're living, we're still an embryo. When you think of it, 35 years. It's nothing. It's probably older than 2 years older than you understand? And when you look at a club like, for example, an Ali, the club is 109 years old.
Wow.
But when you look at a club like Orlando Pirates, they, I think, 50 years old. And when you look at what we're stealing from the top clubs in the world, we haven't stolen anything yet. When you look at just from a technical point of view, or technical stuff, when you look at what Pep Guardiola has as his backroom staff, I think there's a staff of about 30 people.
So true.
Arteta as well at Arsenal.
There's about 30 people behind him. And that's only for the first team. And when you compare to Pirates and Chiefs, I think Pirates have about 10 people. Chiefs have about 15. When I look at what we had, you get what I'm saying? Not more than 20 people. So that alone, just on face value, is telling you that we are behind.
Yes.
So we need to repair that in order to get better. But at the same time, when you look at consistency, in order to get better, if I told you to tell me what was the last 5 years, all the teams that competed in the Liga, you'd be able to tell me that on your fingers as a football person. But if I told you in the last 10 years, you give me the names of all the PSL teams, I tell you, you won't get it wrong. You get 5 right, but the rest you'll get wrong because they've changed. You understand what I'm saying? Whereas the English league, the Bundesliga, La Liga, those teams have only changed the bottom 2, those that get relegated and those that come up. Those are the only names that changed. In our situation, I think the team in the last 10 years, you can't tell me who were the 16 teams that competed in the last 10 years. You get 5 right, like I say, but the rest you'll get wrong because the names have changed. So that's a big culture that needs to be proper stationed and proper building of blocks that need to happen. If you understand what I'm saying. If you bought Swallows, you cannot buy Swallows and change the name. you have to buy Swallows and keep Swallows.
Yeah.
And maintain that Swallows stays in Dobsonville. I think Swallows had moved out of Dobsonville 6 times in life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And this is why when you look at Sundowns have changed names in the last 10 years, 15 years. They've changed names. I mean, they've changed ownership, but they have not moved autonomously.
Yeah.
And that is part of a stability, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is what I call has to be. And Maritzburg United, it's now Durban City. Maritzburg had a big name in Maritzburg. So why do we allow them to do that? And that's all governance.
Yeah.
So we need to look at that before we try and change what's through what I've been through. We need to look at that before that happens. I don't know whether it makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, when you say that, then, and you spoke about stealing, so I know you've coached in Egypt. Were there elements that you think we could take from that league, from those structures, from those club structures, and implement here?
For sure, Shunga. For sure. There is a sense that in Egypt it is first the government and then Ali. They've got 120 million people and 70 million people, for sure, on the books of Ali.
Yeah.
They know
vested interest in the club.
Interest in Ali. But the club is not a football club. This is where I found out, or not found out, but I've known this for years. Flamenco, Santos, Sao Paulo, Fluminense, Manchester City, Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Football is the main thing.
Yeah.
But they are not football clubs. They are social clubs.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of teams on the continent have got SC behind them. Al Ali Social Club. So when you go there, they don't only play football. They have swimming.
There's a social element.
They have hockey. They have netball. They have tennis. And they all play for Ali. But they all wear the same jersey.
Yeah.
And that makes them unique. And that for me is what our football teams in South Africa need to adopt. Because even the basketball players knew the football players. Because the football players are the ones that bring the crowd.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
And when you look at them now, I mean, I think they world champions in handball, Al Ali. They world champions in, I think.
World champion.
Yeah.
Is it?
They're the world champions of handball. They've got, I don't know, they've got quite a few guys that's playing the basketball. They played basketball now the other day. They've got a very, very good basketball team. And they have Americans playing basketball for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
They have Africans playing basketball for them. Top Africans, the Nigerians, the Somalians, they play basketball for them. And they also earn a lot of money. So there's those type of things that we need to navigate in order to make the other things work.
True.
Yeah.
What you talk about, the mentorship,
True.
the finance, because then we can get all those different people coming in to help with the main thing that we always see, what's happening, how the bottle goes up to the top and what happens. Because in all respect, you were at Pirates, you were at SuperSport, Sundowns, you were at Sundowns. When I was at Chiefs, we had a lot of youngsters, good ones. But we found along the way that when they came to the top, the DDC, there were a lot of good ones, but weren't good enough to play.
To the first team.
The first team.
Why is that?
But they had your mentality, Shungo.
Yeah.
What you are doing here.
Yeah.
And we said, take them out there and bring them into an analysis department.
Sure.
Nice.
So automatically, we started growing that interest.
Yeah.
Automatically, you didn't have to leave Pirates. You could have gone into the analysis and you're still part of the team.
Yeah.
But you have the necessary
Skill set.
skills behind you to tell the next generation.
Yeah.
This is what you have to do at Pirates to become a better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I applaud that. I think it's a great approach, coach, because at the end of the day, I feel like those structures have to create pathways for players.
Yeah.
But even how it's looking in the youth system of football in South Africa, there's the GDL League that plays under 17, under 19, and for the better ones will go into the DDC setup. But what happens a lot is that under 19s don't make it to the MDC setup a lot of the time. And you find a crop of players that don't have teams. And it's that phase where you either make it or it doesn't work, right? And I feel like strategies like this, putting them into technical fields, into a department that can help them grow another skill set, because again, you see boys that get into depression, and that's a serious mental health that
derails their whole life as well.
And it's
They'll never admit it though.
I think it's something
We also started the thing with the universities.
Okay.
I don't know how far it's going to go now, where it's going to happen.
You started it
But
when?
we did this a long time ago at the School of Excellence.
Okay. Coach, you're involved there as well?
Because I was involved in the inauguration, in that whole setup.
Okay.
But at Chiefs, we also did it. There was a boy there. Because I'm very, very big on education.
Yeah.
Very important.
Very, very, it's one of my most important things.
Yeah.
Good footballer, but you don't want to go to
Educated.
school? I don't want you. I refuse that. I don't want 90s. I don't want 100s. All I want you to do is finish school.
Yeah.
And we had a boy there that was, you find the gifted boys, you don't need to study nothing there. And he got good marks. I went to the Wits. And I said, guys, here's a player. He's not making the first team. He's playing in the MDC. He's done one season already in the MDC. I don't think he's good. I don't think he needs to play 10 seasons in the MDC. He must go.
True.
Yeah.
I spoke to his parents. I said, let him study, getting a free bursary from Wits. Let him study and play for the university.
That's what we need.
He loved it.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
He loved it. But because there were other players in the MDC that was getting stipends and more money, he was pressing to play in the MDC. I said, don't. Go there.
It's better for you.
Because going there, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 positions you're playing. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. This player they've promoted now is only 18. You are 19. It means he's got a year on you. But this player is not going to school anymore. You are going to varsity. What are you studying? I'm doing business, whatever you're studying. So you have a chance of getting a degree. Free education. And if you don't make it at Chiefs, you can make it at another team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have those qualities. But finish this. If you finish the schooling, then you're okay. You got 2 things in your pocket. I try and paint that picture to them.
Yeah.
And I pray that he's still at varsity. If he's still at varsity, then maybe he can be one of the players that we send over to America some time ago. He became a vet, or he became a doctor. I'm not sure, but he went to varsity. He went. He's the same player that we recruited with Tenkley. Tenkley played great football for South Africa, but his friend went to America and got a degree. Completely different. You understand what I'm saying?
100%, coach.
And this is what we always instilled, and I always try and instill this wherever I go. Fortunately or unfortunately,
It's not always heard.
it's not always heard. And also, I'm not there long enough
Yeah.
to see the whole process. I started.
Right.
Whether the boys carry on with it, I don't know.
Yeah.
We did the same at Platinum Stars, whereby, yes, some of the boys, they still call me and they say thank you. They might not have made football, but they're working. They all finished. They finished as high as possible at school.
It's good, yeah.
And they left. But the two of them that did make it, Kabamelo Khorisang and Gift Lingsa, they still phone me today and say, Coach, what must I do? So we appreciate the little bit you do. Like I say, the bottle is big at the bottom, very small on top.
Yeah.
As to the top, you get what you said. We have depression, mental problems, alcoholism. We have to look at the white and the black tax. That we need to handle, which is important aspects of any athlete's life that he needs to take care of. And I think what you guys doing, we need to unpack that.
Yes.
To make it better, because a lot of our footballers don't know damn what that is all about.
But it's on us then to open the eyes, to gain that perspective, isn't it? To plant those seeds.
100%.
You might not see it, but like those boys have come back to you and thank you. But you saw the vision before them.
I think it's important to try and do that from an African perspective.
Yeah.
Because that little thing that they made, that we all walk around with every day, that for me is the biggest enemy we all have in our pockets.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that thing, and we need to talk about it more often, because I think it gives us a big sense of false things. I mean, I know of guys who put on Gucci all the time. They are major in the meantime. He doesn't have bread in his
Terrible.
So those little things
Definitely, Coach.
are things that we need to unpack and really talk about it.
Definitely.